Hi, and welcome back here on the Senior Network. Carrie, we were talking a little bit earlier, and you brought up a point about depression, and I'm going to let you finish that conversation.
Well, depression is just something that's got to be dealt with up front. We need to determine pretty quickly what the patient's state of mind is when they come home. Some people are very excited to be home, and they are going to take all our rehab and all our nursing, and they are going to achieve those little goals we set for them each day, and they're going to get back to independence and do well.
Right.
Other people can take a turn for the worse. And, you take someone who's active, and I've seen this in my own family, had a 90-year-old relative, walks every day, and then all of a sudden, breaks an arm or breaks a hip, something like that. They're laid up. That is something that has now altered their lifestyle,
right.
And they can be, develop feelings of hopelessness, helplessness, and they lose motivation. And so a big part of what we do with home health is go in and try to get them motivated, get to know them a little bit. We do the PHQ-2 survey. We will call the physician, recommend medication if the patient is showing signs of depression or showing signs of lack of interest in their own life, own health care.
Right.
So that is what is so critical. And we talked about, a lot of times they stop eating. Well, you can't heal if you're not eating. So we just look for what were they interested in beforehand
Sure.
when they're healthy, and what can we do now to get them back to where they were and get them independent. And typically, if we can get a person independent, the depression takes care of itself.
Right.
Yeah. So if you can catch it and just tweak their medication a little bit. The other thing is that patients a lot of times coming out of the hospital will have new medications. And so what we look for, there's a difference between, we talked about cognitive impairment.
Right.
And there's a difference between something like dementia, Alzheimer's, which is a chronic condition, to delirium, which is an acute condition. With a chronic condition like Alzheimer's or dementia, typically the patient has a baseline, and there's a slower deterioration, so you can kind of monitor that. And usually you know what you're getting into when you go to someone's home with dementia. With delirium, it becomes very unpredictable. And there's several different issues that can cause delirium. Of course, if they're on new medications, it could be a medication interaction. Mm-hmm. That's why it's important that PruittHealth Home Health go out to the patient's home and find out what's going on when they get home. That way we can detect depression or delirium early. Also, urinary tract infections are a big problem. That can lead to cognitive impairment, delirium. Mm-hmm. And we had a situation where we had a patient we got referred to from the doctor's office.
Right.
And I get a phone call from the doctor's office saying, why did she stop going to see the patient? So I immediately am like, what? So I immediately call our nurse, and she's like, I was just there yesterday. And the patient had also forgotten the nurse's name, which was unusual. She'd been going there for a few weeks.
Yeah.
So the suspect, of course, was a urinary tract infection, and sure enough, that's what the case was.
Wow.
So.
When you first go out into a home, is that typically a nurse that makes that assessment in the beginning?
Yes, typically.
Okay, on our end. Okay, great. You have the same thing, right, with the Cypress, the home health, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We have the Cypress. We have our own home health care agency as well. Mm-hmm. However, the genesis doesn't really begin with home health care. It's with our wellness navigator, Debbie Peoples.
Oh, yes.
And it is, she wears so many different hats. It can be the smallest thing where, I haven't seen Mrs. Smith at lunch, or I don't see her walking her dog as often as, and somebody may just bring that to Debbie's attention, and so Debbie just picks up the phone. Again, it could be a UTI, it could be new medications, it could be so many different things. But at the end of the day, somebody has to advocate for these people.
Right.
And that's what the Cypress does. And that's when Debbie comes in and we'll do a home visit and we'll sort of assess the situation. And it could be something like alcohol or meds mixed up, or something else has come up. It's a symptom of something else. And so she'll make sure those people get to the right person or doctor. Right. But if that means, yes, we need to have home health care come in, we have something great called Independent Plus, which is not a minimal amount of time. It's what we call share the care. Right. So a nurse may come in maybe just 3 days a week to help with medication mitigation, maybe help shop, change the kitty litter box, and then that's all they need. And then moves on to the next person.
Now, would that be like a nurse aide?
It's a CNA.
Yeah, okay.
Yep, and it's called Share the Care. It's a daily rate. It's very affordable, but it's one of those things when the need arises, you don't want to start looking for it. It's right there at the Cypress, and Debbie Peoples is she advocates for our folks, which is so important.
Wonderful. Now, it made me think, let's shift gears a little bit because of the aging population. We talk about, home health and all the things that we have in place now to keep people healthy and at home. And we're living a lot longer.
Yes, we are.
So we run into this a lot where folks are starting to outlive their savings.
That is a
Are you
big,
seeing-
oh yeah, and that's a big concern. When I sit down with people and go over what the costs are to purchase at the Cypress and then to meet the monthly obligations, it's like, will I outlive my money here? The Cypress is wonderful in the sense that we have so many different varied floor plans and affordability.
Right.
Everything from a 1-bedroom apartment, of course, to a 3-bedroom, 3-bath home. And so
On the water.
On the water, no less, right?
We saw that, yeah.
Yeah, and the monthly fee, is reflective of the size of the accommodation. So anywhere from, $2,600 a month to over $4,000. But to that point, I get a snapshot of folks' finances before they come to the Cypress.
Right.
And the neat thing about living at the Cypress, one of the biggest things people are concerned about is the uncertainty of cost of living. If they raise that's the one thing. They know what their fixed income is going to be. They can kind of project it over the next 20 years, but they don't know what the cost of living is going to be. That's a huge uncertainty. At the Cypress, because we have purchasing power, we buy, the foods in bulk, and we can predict what our costs are going to be. So on average, our monthly fees only go up around 4%. It's actually a little bit less than 4% a year over the last 27 years. So we can predict and look at their income to say, yeah, you'll have plenty of assets to meet that obligation 20 years from now, because we have people living in their hundreds.
Yeah.
They're moving
yeah.
in they're in early 70s and they're living into their hundreds. So, and so we know that we can meet that, they'll be able to meet those obligations. Moreover, they still have the equity in their home.
Yeah.
So if they do go to the Preston Health Center, they still have that built-up savings of equity in their home that they can use for their care in the Preston Health Center. It's just a terrific situation for
Yeah,
our
like you
folks.
said, I never thought about that, but you can downsize as you're there at the Cypress.
Oh,
right?
people do. People will sell like a home on the water, and then
Yep.
they'll move to like a 2-bedroom villa, and their monthly fees and taxes and all that go down as well in proportion to the home that they're purchasing.
Wow.
Yeah.
And Carrie, you're out in all kinds of communities, I know, with PruittHealth Home Health. And when you run into situations like that, do y'all try to refer that on to like an attorney or a financial planner to help those people too?
Well,
When those conversations start to arise?
we do have a social worker.
Oh, you do? Okay.
So our social worker would work with them.
Oh, okay.
And some people might qualify for Medicaid, but they don't. It's not something they're aware of.
Right.
So we'll help them fill out the paperwork and kind of navigate them through that process.
Yeah, and there's VA benefits and everything else out there that social work can help point them in that right direction. It made me think back at the Cypress, because I've heard, and I don't know the chef's name.
Chef Eric.
Eric?
Chef Eric Sayers.
Okay, and with March being Nutrition Month, right? So do they have special diet plans?
Chef Eric, he's just, he's a dream chef. He is so willing to do anything that a member needs as far as their diets are concerned. So
Right.
we have gluten-free, we have vegans now at the Cypress.
Wow.
So I know, right? So we can accommodate all those certain diets, low sodium, that sort of thing. We have chef specials that change every other day. Our menu changes every month, and we have a food committee that meets with the chef, I think once a month, maybe twice a month. So everyone can share the accolades of the food, but also any concerns that they may have.
Now, as we were talking about the beautiful homes on the water that we visited, say if a family wanted to have a private party for
We do a lot of catering in the
Catering?
home and in the clubhouse, yes. So yeah, and that's another opportunity for socializing and bringing friends together.
And you can actually get, in order just to go, right? I mean, if people
Yeah,
don't
meals
wanna
are delivered at no charge. And that's another thing. We're talking about depression. We can tell if someone's not, we can kind of sense if someone's not
Right.
coming to they're typically coming to the dining room at night, and the next thing you know, all their meals are being delivered. That is a red flag. It was like, maybe that's when Debbie Peoples may interject and say, call and say, is everything okay? And it may be something very simple, that it's just not feeling well, or something more significant.
But it's a great point. You have they see those signs of the change, and
absolutely.
and start monitoring that situation. Well, I know with the springs here on us already, Carrie, does that change as far as your business levels? Is there times of year where you folks tend to be busier?
Not too much in the spring.
Okay.
Maybe in the summer we see a slight dip when a lot of people from this area will go back up north to see their kids.
Snowbirds
and
back,
grandkids. Yeah. So we don't see, March is typically a normal month.
Okay.
I got to put a plug in there for my open house.
When is
Friday, April 5th, 1 to 4.
Friday, April 5th, the Cypress of Hilton Head.
Yeah, 1 to 4.
Hold that thought. That's all the
Okay.
time we have. Thank you, Becky.
my plug
You
in.
got it in. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thank you, Carrie, for joining us.
All right. Thank you.
Please take a moment, if you will, and email us your comments, questions you might have. And thank you all for joining us here on the Senior Network, where senior care experts come together. We'll see you the next time.